Ben Sweatman. What's up, you? Thanks for coming on the podcast.
All right.
Appreciate it. You're my first live in person actually interview at all. So excited to have you. Excited to have a discussion.
Oh yeah, feel honored, man. Kind of crazy how we met.
Insane. So do you want to go through that at the start just to set the stage for how we even know each other in the first place?
For sure. Yeah. So I was hiking section J of the PCT going south with a couple family members,
What's PC2?
the Pacific Touch. And yeah, this summer in what was it, August, I think we were yet. And last couple miles before I was gonna finish up, we ran into each other and we had like a 10-minute conversation and then found out that you were with Colorado Springs. And so it's like, hey, hit me up.
Yeah, it's pretty thorough the conversation.
What did we talk about?
I don't even remember exactly, but the thing is, when you're hiking the PCT, you are passing hundreds, thousand plus people, like every single day, multiple hikers, summer day hikers, locals, through hikers as you get up north, your people going southbound. So you meet and see a lot of people. And if you stop and talk to literally everyone, you won't spend enough time during the day hiking, at least for my goals and my pace. So you kind of have to pick your battles. But yeah, it was fun. Like just meeting you, definitely like felt that we had a lot in common right away. And then once I found out that you lived here, it's like, oh, let's be friends.
I think I could tell you were a runner too. I think that's what I pointed out, and then we talked about running.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was. Because when you see a run, another run, you kind of know.
Yeah, definitely. And 2 weeks, 3 weeks into living in Colorado Springs and didn't know anything about it before coming here. So I definitely had questions for you too and needed a training buddy anyway. So I'm very grateful for the way that that happened.
Same. It was yeah, nice to just have more training partners, and I feel like the more people you know, like just nice to find different spots or things to do near. So
100%. Yeah. And yeah, it was cool to connect them running right away. And so at that point, had you already run? No, you had run the 50 mile.
no, I hadn't entered the world of ultras. I had just been introduced at that point to kind of trail running. So
But you were still relatively new getting back into running. So set the stage, I guess, for people with your background in running in general, your experience of it, and then the time that you took off and coming back and what that was all like.
yeah, for sure. So I started running in college, not for like a team or anything, just kind of out of boredom, just trying to work on myself. Really didn't know what I wanted to do. Was kind of, let's say, just like a little depressed, and yeah, wanted to put effort into something. So I felt like running was a good outlet for it. So that was end of 2018, I think. So ran for like a year and a half, did a couple halves, did a full, just a road marathon. I really liked it, but then stopped for 4 years after just kind of focusing on my professional career and yeah, just kind of lived a little bit on like an unhealthy lifestyle, and then um, decided after getting a divorce to pick it back up. And that was like a year and a half ago. So been actively running for like I guess 3 years total. But yeah, I didn't run in high school or college, and I'm just kind of trying to figure it out now. So
That is such a I mean, okay, so let me lay down some groundwork. Ben was third place at Deadworks, 50 mile every top. Fifth place. Sorry. Podium first. And in the Pikes Peak Marathon, which is ridiculous, how much elevation is there over marathon?
yes, I think it's 6,800 feet of Mert. So yeah, for anyone who doesn't know the race, essentially you start at the base of the city Manitou. It's a mile on the road with like 300 feet of gain, and then you run straight up the front side of Pikes Peak. So I think it averages like 700 feet of gain per mile up to the top, and you turn around and run down.
It's insane. That is so many feet per mile. And you came in ninth, Rose,
Yeah, came in ninth. So
which for that race is an incredible feat because it's not a small race, right? And it has a pretty storied history.
Yeah, thanks, dude. I mean, it depends on the year, obviously, in terms of how competitive it is. But yeah, no, that was kind of the moment that I realized that I really wanted to give this, my full effort and attention. This because I realized, this might be something that I could be pretty good at. So
That's awesome. But the reason that I bring up those finishes is because the context of you getting out of running for 4 years and then coming back to running for whatever, 9 months, a year at the time or of starting to get back in racing and putting out those performances, it's pretty unrelatable. For me, at this speak from my experience, I started enjoying running 6 years ago, so quite a long time. And I'm not putting up hero distances or mileage or anything like that, but I've been in the sport for a while. It definitely just goes to show you that there are differences between people, and definitely differences also in training approaches. Like my start with running was pretty much all zone Q, which is the only reason that I got into it in the first place because I hated running fast. But what do you think specific to your case led to your success and kind of fast um, reintroduction to riding a bike of ultra running and running on the road?
yeah, well, I mean, I think you're selling yourself short too. Like, touch on that first. I mean, like, you didn't run in high school or anything either, right?
No.
So, I mean, like, you gotta give yourself some credit there. Like, you're kind of, in a spot two figuring it out for yourself of the training, and if you're doing a lot of Zen 2 stuff and getting into it, like, I think you've made pretty good progress yourself.
I
But
appreciate that. Yeah, and it's definitely, I think, taken a lot of intentionality and also different chapters of my relationship with sport. In the beginning, I had no aspirations or any kind of performance.
yeah,
And for me at the time, the idea of accomplishing a certain time or finishing a certain race was kind of antithetical to the reason why I started running in the first place, which was almost similar to you, which was really never liked running and then started going slow and realized, number one, that runner's high is the real thing. And number two, that it makes a profound difference for my mental and physical health. Yeah. And the combination of those two things, plus my interest in the science, really is just the perfect storm of me getting into it fully. But what do you mentioned that it was paramount to a specific time in your life here, you started to feel better running. How much did that ever say is like the physical side of things, the mental side of things, and what was it like just getting started?
yeah, I think it was like just something concrete towards. So, like, for me, I always did kind of like running. Like, maybe I'm underestimating how much I did run growing up. Like, I would run, like, even in middle school, like 10 minutes at a time, thinking that was long distance, just to like get my energy out, was having a lot of energy. And so, like, I think I had a little bit of, uh, like, I knew, quote unquote, like what good times were. So, like, coming in, I like wanted to set concrete kind of goals for myself to see how I could progress, and that kind of fed a little bit of passion into it just to like see how I could progress. So I think, like, starting off already kind of having some like goals in mind of what I wanted to try to do. But I think it was like obviously that just feeling healthier, getting active, but then also, yeah, having the like really concrete goals that were just and it's always felt like every time I set something new, it's just aspirational and delusional. And then when you get there, it's like I did it. And so that just kind of kept feeding on itself.
Exactly. That creates like a positive feedback loop where you're like, holy crap, I can actually do what I set out to do or make serious progress. And then it just makes me more obsessed with the process in the first place. But that it's so opposite my experience of being in it. And I think that it's going to show you that everyone has different relationship with it. Also, that changes over time because now I have my own time, performance, race goals that I enjoy stacking for that reason. It feels like they add to my fulfillment and appreciation of the sport and community. But there was a time where that wasn't exactly productive to the reasons why I got in it in the first place.
Yeah. And I think that it's not like performance-based goals aren't for everyone, right? Like, the more people who are running, I think is a better world just for health and everything. So, like, if that's not what kinda drives you at all, like, I think that's totally fine. It's just, yeah, what drove me.
I think that that conversation is such an important one to be had in our sport because when I was new, like I said, the performance aspect kind of turned me off. I was living in New York City at the time, and the culture around a marathon competition, all the times you get over miles per week, all that stuff, definitely delayed my entry for a while. When I should, in reality, the best version of this sport in this community is one that is multi-flavored and everyone has different goals. Everyone has a different vision of what it will look like. But I think the realization for me that's so important is I'm never going to be at a spot with running, trail run, or whatever, where I'm getting paid based on my performance.
No.
And yet, in the media almost, I think that that is glamorized to a point where it changes what people see when they see trail running or road running or marathon running because they're only seeing elite athletes sponsored by giant organizations. And that's why I think storytelling is really cool. And where I think what you're doing is really cool, where you're just creating a YouTube video and sharing your journey through these goals that you're setting for yourself and just sharing the raw experience and what changes throughout the way. So, how are you thinking about your YouTube and storytelling? Because this is also something, I mean, obviously, as I've said, that I think is super important for people to see, but it also deepens your own relationship with the sport, I think, too. It's in my experience. So, how has that been for you just getting to that?
Yeah, I think it's like, everyone has their own kind of like starting points, right? And like their theoretical like ceiling. And so like, yeah, I think it's more fun just because initially I kind of had that too, right? You like see all the fast people, you kind of feel demoralized about your own times. But like when I first got into it, or after like a little bit of training, it was like I really kind of did just have the like desire to see how good I could get, and I wasn't super focused on it. Um, of like, yeah, comparing myself to other people. And so I think just like, yeah, being able to tell the story to other people who want to improve, also just to say, hey, this is where I was at, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm attempting. Like, hopefully, other people can relate and feel inspired because I think if you put in the right amount of work, like you can do incredible things, even if it isn't, even if you aren't the best of the best, like what matters is becoming a better version of yourself.
100%. Well, I can definitely relate from what I've seen so far. You put out your video about the Dead Horse 50, which people should definitely check out on Ben Sweatman's YouTube. Um, but what was you said? Oh yeah. So but you've been focusing more on the transition from where you were back in the sports started on roads to now getting in trail. What have you noticed about the nature of the difference between the 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 culture, the demands, the experiences, and the races between those two different kind of sub niches?
Yeah, I think road just feels a lot more grindy, just because you can compare courses so easily. Everything's pretty much the same. Obviously, there's some bigger, elevation gain or loss in different races for the road, but yeah, it feels more, it's easier to compare yourself, it feels like, for the road stuff. And all the training just feels very similar on a day-to-day basis. And so, like, when I started switching my focus to mainly the trail, kind of summer of last year, it just kind of gave me like the ability and like desire to like check out the areas and be a little less maybe focused on like still focused on the performance, but also just like really enjoying the moment of the actual training. And then like the races themselves too. I don't know. The trail community just everyone maybe seems a little more uplifting. I think the road is still that way too, but
definitely.
How's that? Yeah, it's just a unique community, I think, for the trail.
Yeah, for sure. That's been my experience, and I kind of have had a different experience getting into it because I got into it through trail,
Yeah.
and I was never a road runner in the beginning for the reason that you said. On trail, it's almost impossible to compare times when run. My first race was 50 milers, e-boat break called Run Rowdy Run. Still my favorite is
It's the first one you
Quincy Moose. But dude, I absolutely loved up there and can't wait to go back. But if you're telling someone that you ran 50 miles through the mountains over the Continental Divide in 1250, it's like, well, what's 1250? Okay.
still basis of comparison.
So even more so than that, because yeah, that was again a concern for me in the beginning. It was like the comparison aspect of it. But I think once you start moving your feet over dirt in the road, that concern really fades away. And it becomes a very self-focused narrative, I think, which is almost a good thing because then you can connect with people through a more authentic experience. But uh, when I ran my first race in Steamboat and was just running with other people out there on the trail, sharing a beer at the finish line, talking to people who were traveling to Steamboat Springs, and the whole culture and community felt like something that I had never experienced before in a way that was so welcoming, warm, experience focused in a shared way that really changed how I thought about running in general. So I think that's important for a lot of people just to check out because there are trail races anywhere, and there's trail in your backyard, even if you live in Connecticut, which I've come to learn. And you gotta seek it out. But I think it's important for people to just have that experience because, again, everyone likes different things, and totally changed what I thought about running in general.
Why do you think that that's the case, in terms of the maybe felt difference, like, with trail versus road?
I think the two communities that have a stark contrast in my mind, again, are, and it's also a product of where I was working at the time period. So when I first got into running, I was studying at NYU, in downtown New York City. And then I got into finance after that. And just the people that I was surrounded by had a different relationship with running, and some of them had never been on trail. And the focus around the sport just felt a little different. And again, I'm only speaking to my experience because, as you said yourself, there are incredibly people and experiences and races and training to be had on the road. It's just a different thing. But then during that time period, Orbit actually heard the Boulder for a little bit and spent a lot of time in Montana. And that was my first taste of the trail community and those people in Missouri, Boulder, and Steamboat Springs who were fired up about moving their feet over dirt for a stupid long time and eating candy. Something about that environment just created a perfect storm of like not only other people that I was fired up to talk to, but created a space where I felt like seen and heard and comfortable enough to connect with others in that way. And that was huge for me at that moment in time when in New York, I didn't feel super connected to finance world, to NYU, to computer science. So it was kind of like a branch out and led to me trusting myself, I think, a little bit more.
Yeah, it's like just a shared passion that everyone has, and I think maybe this is true of most people in the ultra trail world, but I think there's maybe a little bit of something wrong with all of us. Connect on it.
It's a certain kind of psychopathy because you're running for 50 miles that takes all day. So a lot of people just can't order that many thing and I understand that. You gotta have a certain kind of screw loose in a way that even sounds remotely enjoyable. So what is it about that? What kind of screw do you have loose where 50 miles over red hot dirt in Utah is a trek in the first place?
I think there's a lot of screws loose, to be honest. I don't know. I've thought about it of like, what my why is per se. I feel like everyone has a lot of people have these deep whys, but like at the end of the day, I don't really have one. It's more for me of just like sheer curiosity of like what I am capable of. Um, and like just experiencing like what my psyche goes through in those moments is just interesting.
That's awesome. I think there's something to be said about that. There's a quote that I totally don't know the source of, and it's on Instagram. Speaking of the psychology, kind of the psychology of exploring different human emotions, and there's this lady, this gal, and she's saying, if you were a fifth dimensional extraterrestrial being in purgatory or working down on Earth or whatever, and you're saying that humans get to experience as many possible points along the spectrum of things that could even be felt in the first place. Sounds pretty cool. And I think that's kind of like how railroading and trying to distance it and trying to see the boundaries of what your body can even do in the first place is like you're gonna feel some new things that you've never felt before. And that's kind of the privilege. Like it's very cool and unique to the sport. So I wasn't
Totally. That's a good perspective.
there. So I'm psyched that we get to train together, but you're a little too fast for me. But we'll get there to a point where, at least for now, we can share runs where it's my tempo run. We did a little 8 mile jaunt last week or the week before.
You did a couple miles before that.
So I did, yeah, whatever. So it was a 10 up. It's first two would have one off at my 30 pace or whatever. But so you're speeding. So that was your easy run. Ended up being tempo for me. We did 7:30 or something like that for I think most of it and just moving for me. But what so I'm pumped that at least we can pair style runs. What do you think? What have you found the value in finding training partners and a crew that you can do important workouts with or just Wednesday after John's?
Yeah. So like the entire like trail focus for the last half of uh, you know, last year, like I pretty much did just go monk mode and like train by myself for not every run, but it was mostly by myself. Um, and it was fun, but it definitely felt like it was a little bit lonely. And so like there's just this shared community and like you're all working towards similar goals. So just like having the community is just like yeah, and about lifting. But then also just like holding yourself accountable and getting desensitized to different times, like having people that are faster than you. And I guess like being less impressed and just like more involved in like how to actually get better instead of just focusing on like, oh, I crushed a workout. I should feel great about myself. And, so be it. But constantly like striving to get better. I think it's just so much easier when you're in a group.
Yeah, it seems like a really important mental shift and unlock that I feel like I haven't really experienced. So I'm excited to run with you and some of the other crew that you've been with to try to push myself on some faster paces. But it seemed like it is kind of an unlock where it's like, wait, why can't I run that pace? Like I've never tried to do that for 400 meters or whatever it might be. And, in life, they say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Maybe in running, you're the average of the 5 people you run the most with.
Your marathon PR is the average year pop up fastest sense.
And it's a social community. And part of what's so cool about this work is sharing. So it's just another outlet, I think, to do that, which would be pretty cool. I'm excited to see who and what we can put together in Colorado Springs because I think there are a lot of runners here. There were a lot in New York City as well, but Um, it's the first time in my life where I'm bragging more into it. It would be fun to put together a crew or a run club or whatever, and I think we got some athletes in this city. See,
Yeah, I feel like Colorado Springs kind of underrated. Like you got Boulder, Flagstaff, all the big running areas, but like I think there's quite a few really talented athletes here. Uh, so yeah, I think something like that would make sense.
so you've grown up here. You moved away for a little bit. You came back. What was it like coming back? I guess before that, what was it like growing up here? How has this town changed over time? And what do you see as kind of the athletic, outdoor embodiment that it has now?
Yeah, I mean, growing up here, I was desensitized to all of it, right? The mountains, like when you're a teenager, you grow up here, you're like just a big rock. So you just get desensitized, and you move elsewhere, and then come back, and you realize what you do have at your fingertips. And so I think 15 years ago, Colorado Springs, I think was definitely a different city than it is now. I think you have a lot more people that are. It's always been an active city, but like, um, yeah, I think it's maybe shifted, um, just with more people coming in, to a point now where, I think there's just a lot of room to have some, sort of different training groups and whatnot.
Definitely. Yeah, and I've only been here for 3 weeks or whatever, but I've been to a few different mountain towns, and pretty much every reframes upcoming mountain town says that they are like Boulder 15 years ago or before it became Boulder. Is like that's a metaphor that I hear literally nonstop about cans everywhere, especially on PCT as well. But there is something we said about the growth, I think, because like you were saying, like there's your flagship towns where they're trumpeting centers and everyone knows it. Your Flagstaff, your Boulder. But there's something cool about like a growing personality of a place like this. Um, and again, I don't know too much about it compared to you growing up here, but it seems cool. I'm
Yeah,
happy to be here.
yeah, I think a lot of the polarizing beliefs, I guess, is the best like way to put it, have made people overlook Colorado Springs, and it's definitely less so that way now. Uh, Also, you just like 10-minute drive, or you can climb up a giant mountain was pretty insane.
So sick. Yeah. Yeah. People say that Denver is like a mountain city, but really very far from the mountains. Being here is our, you can drive kind to be at the base of a lot of different cool places. For sure. Okay. So you've been in the sport before a year and a half since you came back, and you haven't been hurt at all yet? Is what you told me?
No, I definitely have, but
Right at the beginning?
yeah, so started back October of 24, trained at that point I was doing Indy Road, so trained for the Eugene Marathon in April. And then after crossing the finish line, I felt good, and then I stopped and I could barely move, and something happened on my, yeah, messed up my hip. So it took 2 full months off where I was wrecked. And then after building back and switching the trail, in beginning of July, I haven't done injury access.
During that Eugene block, what was your goal going into that block? Did you also notice any twinges or signs as you were heading into the race?
Yeah, it felt like every 8 weeks there was, or 6 weeks, there was like a week I'd have to take off and just cross train. Pretty much, yeah. Every 4 to 6 weeks, I would have a minor setback, then build back up, minor setback, and then after the race, I couldn't run at all for 2 months.
And during that time we were training for Eugene, you had a pretty ambitious goal for yourself, right? For the performance side of it.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I just wanted to qualify for Boston and the current's up 255. I had no idea where it was at just because I was coming back from 4 years off. So I didn't really know what I was going to try, but that was my goal, is just, qualifying for Boston and seeing what I could do. Um, but yeah,
Okay, but regardless, I remember you telling me we were having a stupid long time, I guess, since that after Eugene moment. What has changed? Red, what are the rears? What's your secret sauce? I'm dealing with a little hip niggle myself right now in the back row. How do you stay even healthier?
I mean, I think obviously maybe part of it is just the more you run, more miles you build, like maybe you're less likely to get hurt. So like, you know, maybe take what I say with a grain of salt. But I do think that like the biggest change for me, uh, switching to trail and doing a lot more vert and slower paces than just straight on concrete, average pace being a lot quicker. I think just the average, like, yeah, the impact per step, is going to be a lot less, even if you do have more time on your feet. So I think that was a piece of it. But then another big piece was just eating a lot more right after, and then fueling a lot more dirty. So the amount of gels and like, food that I already take during a lot of the runs that I would not take any water or food on, 6 months before that, like it was pretty stark.
Thankfully, due to the new high high carb craze, some of the signage behind it, thanks to people like Dave and Megan Roche, shout out. Um, a lot more people are focusing on keeping their intake up, but the inner prevention side of it is something that I think a lot of people don't necessarily consider because not having enough carbs on board during, like you're saying, or protein and carbs after can be a very quiet yet sinister way for your body to break down.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when they think of like high carb, they think of it purely on performance, but it's like, it's way more than that because it's like a multiplying effect on your training, right? Like you're able to intake the fuel, more fuel during, it helps you then recover faster from that run, which means that you can run more, push more, recover faster, and then it all kind of is exponential. So I think like, yeah, I think a lot of people just think of it as like a performance benefit, and I think it is, but like I think the biggest thing is even more than that is just being able to recover from all these runs.
Totally. And for endurance athletes specifically, I think another huge part of it that's helped for me to think about at least is the potential damage of underfueling way outshadows the potential danger of overfueling. So you'd rather eat more, you'd rather get more carbs on board during your long workouts, even some of your easy days, and certainly afterwards to make sure that you're not under. Because if you're under, it really doesn't take a whole lot less from what you're used to hurt yourself, I think. For sure. It's a theory, but
Yeah, no, I
it's
completely.
one that I really and then the time on feet thing I think is so important. I think when people switch on their Strava, they always have this ego, and this is so natural. It's something, of course, that have done for such a long time. It's really hard to switch off. But when you hit start, you always have an expectation to be with a certain pace in a certain time. Because like you have these goalposts, and I think you have to surrender that ego, especially as you're building mileage and trying to do so sustainably, to allow yourself to just maybe even walk run, maybe walk up this hill, even if it's at a 12-minute pace, to just accumulate that time on feet. And this is something that I also really like in PCT because before the Pacific Crest Trail, I've been running, starting to get more serious about it. Started to have some aspirational goals. I was still in New York City, but I have just chronic hip tendinosis and hip drop that leads to problems in my T-bands, in my patellofemoral pain, and all these different areas, and it just keeps popping up different places. And then I hit the PCT. I was on my feet for 12, 14 hours a day. And yes, I had the reuse injury along those lines for the first 2 weeks. Afterwards, completely melted away. And it blew my mind along the lines of the small muscles and tendons in our feet, our calves, and our lower legs in general, I think are responsible for a lot more protective effects than we even realize. And just spending more time on your feet, because obviously we're all sitting all the time, leads to tight hips. That's how it was for me. If you just get up and move around in unconventional ways for longer total duration, I think it will work wonders for your running, even if you don't add any time specifically to your workouts.
No, I totally agree. I think even just like I've been trying to implement just more walks. Like my day job, I work remote and am sitting a lot. So even just morning run or afternoon run, but then supplementing it with morning or afternoon walks too, just to get the blood flow moving and kind of get a stimulus to kind of, advance recovery, I think is helpful.
Exactly. Yeah, that's so important. Along the lines of injury prevention, this just popped into my head. I don't know how relevant it has been to your build and dead horse and everything, but when you're running on trails, you're running downhill, you get a lot more eccentric load. There can be lead to micro tears into problems if you don't have the strength built up in your quads. And yet, you told me you don't do a ton, maybe any strength training. What has been your experience with downhole running, eccentric loading? Have you noticed any differences when you transitioned over to trail, started running longer with your durability side of things?
I've thought about that a lot because, like, I know strength training is something I need to do more. It's honestly, like, something that I probably should do. I hate it.
I think that's true for everyone. I think literally every runner would admit, find me one that disagrees. Every runner would admit that they should probably be more strength training. It just seems like a common threat.
Yeah, yeah, no, so my legs seem to do really well with going downhill. Um, I did quite a few really long, you know, 10-mile up, 10-mile down, and kind of trying to rip some of the downhills. Like in the build lead up to both Pikes Peak and Dead Horse. And you had some fatigue, but I think maybe it's because I was a downhill longboarder for a while, just did like a lot of squats and had a lot of like quad strength coming in. Potentially could have been it. Um, but I think, yeah, even just with the trail, or yeah, every step's a little different. It almost feels like it's like built in plyos a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when you're going up and down, you don't realize how much alternate loading that you're getting that you don't get in your normal gate padded build. You're just on concrete because you're having the same spot over and over and over. Versus like you gotta step around that rock. Like I think even just those small micro movements often make a difference. Completely agree. The the background in downhill skating is wild. We haven't even talked about this at all. Like, do you have anything to say about that period? How s- is that's a sport? How did your experience with that sport lead into endurance?
Um, I don't know if it was much endurance, but that in terms of like the physical aspect, aside from maybe just like general lawn strength, but like I think it was more of a mental benefit coming in because like,
Scary. It was scary seeing those videos, but then also die doing that, right? It's nuts.
I think it's also like the amount of time I spent just by myself trying to get better. I think got a good carryover for running, in terms of working on different things and slowly progressing and just see the satisfaction of it. I think had carryover of that pro.
Yeah, definitely. Just the mentality behind sports in general. Definitely true to my lacrosse and football experience. Like it's a different switch that you turn on, and the heavy experience even if it's in a different sport. It's important to know you've been there. What are your big plans, goals moving ahead? I know that you have some ambitious projects lined up. What are you thinking about? What are you doing? Where are you running?
Yeah, so um, a little counterintuitive compared to what we've been talking about, focusing more on the trails and the community aspect and whatnot. But I am doing a roadblock here for a little bit just to build some speed. Uh,
Me too.
it's fun. Every once in a while, right?
I think so. This is my first roadblock at all. It's my first time. Possibility running. What? So, oh yeah, it's gonna be my first time running a road marathon. So yeah, I guess that's not true. It's not my first roadblock because when I was training for the ultras that I have them, I was in New York City and I didn't have access to trails on a Tuesday afternoon after work. So I'd go run 7 miles, flat concrete with Asia's siren going up off all around her. So my trip was really, I mean, that are at 10,000 feet and did 50 miles over trash. So that's always a huge experience. But it is also, yes, my first. roadblock with a road race at the end of it. Uh, Hopefully in May. We're gonna have the Sugarloaf Marathon. I think I'll do that one. Where's that? It's in Maine at Sugarloaf Mountain. Pretty foreign work.
What?
In mid-May, so there's 40 something, 50 something degrees, something like 1,200 elevations and nothing like crazy. Definitely doable. It seems like a rolling course and a little bit more low key, which is actually what I want. Like, I don't really want the huge crowds. Um, Also, to be honest, I don't really want to raise money for one of the big ones. So I'd like to sign up and I with a couple of hundred other people who heard it here for hates turn, hates the kids. Uh, but yeah, I just wanted to plug and play, and it seemed like a fun race. I saw some good reviews for it, and importantly, little inside baseball here, but I'm training up here at altitude or 6,000 feet, and it's the day or two. I think it's on Sunday actually. After I fly back from being done with school, grad school, I'm studying at UCCS. Um, It'll be my last day or last weekend, so I can take advantage of my acclimatization.
Love it. It'll be a nice little cap to finish the semester.
But continue. So, were you having specific like time goals, performance goals, and that big picture, maybe even after what's on the horizon? How do you view what we're going to be looking at going forward?
Yeah, so I wanted to do a roadblock just to build my speed because of the amount of time I've been in the sport. I do feel like that is kind of my limiting factor of just like speed in general. So yeah, that's the reason I'm doing the roadblock here. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna do a marathon in a small little suburb of Chicago, where I'm gonna try to run sub 240. I don't know where I'll be at that point, just because I feel like the more I progress, you know, maybe I'd be faster, maybe I'd be a little bit slower. It's just hard to predict, given like trajectory that far. But uh, based on like where I think I'm at, I think that's like a good goal to shoot for. So yeah, I've got a half coming up in a week just to kind of test my fitness and see where I'm at. It's just a local one here in Colorado Springs. And then have the road marathon, where hopefully I'll run sub 240. And then past that, just building the mountain nights back. And I think, yeah, I think I might do JFK, later in the year.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
JFK.
2 miler.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
And then I'm going to do Pikes Peak. Yeah.
I saw a lot about the JFK race this past year. It's on social. It seems pretty popular. Someone sent an FKT on that or something, or course record on that.
Uh,
Maybe
yeah, Hans, the winner, ended up, I think, was like a couple minutes
that's probably
slower than worth the record. But it's an interesting one because it's like almost half road, half trail, but it's an ultra. Uh, so I think that'll be a good one. Having done some road stuff at the beginning of the year. Um,
totally no the
but
most sense.
it's the oldest, I think, ultra in the U.S.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's super cool. Well, I'm so excited to walk through at the half here.
nice, man.
Hopefully get some footage, cheer you on, run up to Costco and back, right? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, hopefully I don't poop myself with trying to experiment with bicarb, but we'll see.
I haven't had any bad experiences with it at all. I've used it 3 times now, I think, for a couple longer runs, maybe a track session. And it's kind of nasty to get down the gullet. It's just like this goop. That isn't particular. It doesn't really taste like anything. It's just like swallowing a big old loogie 15 times back to back. But I have
Enjoy it.
that's it really bit. I'm making it sound awesome, aren't I? Uh, but I am a dehydrated freezer, and I don't know if it's because of the specific Morden composition, because I haven't even tried just normal baking soda yet. Maybe that's next for me. Is try the baking soda, which is 1% of the cost of the Morden bicarb, and see if I get GI issue there. But I took the highest dose and no problem, so I think it should be good.
Did you do the hack where you order the highest dose and cut it in half?
That's what I was thinking, and then, uh, I just ended up eating the whole thing. It's too yeah, it was too enjoyable. No, it was just sitting there, and I'm like, "Alright, I might as well down it." But,
I think he might be the only person who feels that way. While it's there, I might as well eat your slop.
no, seriously, it is disgusting. It is tough. But, uh, yeah, again, just like everyone else, I think I felt less burned, but if it's placebo, right, I'll take that too.
Well, almost a placebo worse. How about you? What's your goal for your
Um, Starting with some more road speed in the beginning of the year as well. I think yeah, so another part of my background, yes, and doing boat racing and everything is for all of my trail races, and maybe this is part of a lot reason why I can progress super quickly in terms of performance. I never did any speed and never ran faster than my aspiring race pace, basically. So once I kind of got introduced to the science uh, behind speed work through my own physiology research and now being part of grad studies here and just getting into training theory and starting to coach other people, I've come to realize just how important speed work is. Um, and so once we got trained from the PCT, started introducing the more intentional intervals, threshold set, key stretch throughout the block and saw faster progression than I ever have. It was
prior? Yeah, I think it's a good call too. I feel like the whole zone two topic is so overplayed, especially for newer runners, just because you can progress a lot faster if you are really faster. I do think that maybe is probably a reason why I got cursed so much at the beginning, but then also maybe why I had a semi-quick progression is because I did almost on the runs of three.
yeah, definitely. And I see both sides of the coin because again, zone two is like what got me into the sport in the first place. Made me start loving it because you in my feet for a long time as stay effort. But at the same time, seeing my own progression and now seeing it in other athletes as well. I'm coaching my buddy Hunter. What's up, Hunter? We were in Jackson, and we're starting to prescribe some speed work there as well because he's also and from a background of like zone two till he dies, especially in culture, you're not running faster than that. So why would you just train it all the time? But as you were alluding to, especially at specific blocks, raising the ceiling is super important. And I think of training theory and how to approach athletes through a power curve, basically, where you have effort on the x-axis measured either in heart rate, in lactate, in rate of perceived exertion. And on the vertical axis is power, which in cycling was a lot easier to measure. You use the stride power meter in running, but it's a little bit iffy because power calculations gets nitty gritty into the physics of it. But there's internal and external work that you're doing with your legs due to springiness in your tendons that are stretching as you absorb contact from the ground. So that's technically work too, but it's not exactly external hurt with front foot. So the calculation isn't straightforward. So you can just use pace there too, but pace is moment versus effort. And in zone one, you have a certain level. Zone two, a little bit higher. Zone three. So this curve is kind of like almost an exponential looking type thing. And sometimes counterintuitively, even if your race in 4 months is going to be all zone two because it's 50 mile or whatever, 100K, you can plateau to the point where you continue training in zone two, but you're not seeing gains necessarily. Versus you're progressively adding mileage, introducing key workouts that are speed sessions on track, whatever, raising the zone five, zone six part of your curve has effects across the entire thing, especially as it relates to running and company and stuff like that. So that's a lot of hurt speak, but a way of saying that our plan is kind of starting with speed work, uh, trying again for ambitious goals with this marathon in May. I'm aiming for around three. I think that's overly ambitious for me, especially given my background, but I'm hopeful. I think I can make a lot of progress at least. And maybe it's a benefit of not even knowing what I can do. I don't have a PR at the Rose Marathon, so just go send it, see what happens.
Where I'm not gonna ultra gear disrespect the room.
Oh, I love that. Maybe I shouldn't dress whole trail.
Wear trashy.
I like that knot. And that's going to carry into the rest of my year.
10 millimeter wires. All right.
What is it?
Turn really long spray. Retrace. Fuck.
Yeah, makes no sense. And then some Trovers. I signed up for a parlor in September. The stagecoach premiered. Um, Starts in Clarkstaff and goes to Green King along the Arizona Trail I haven't been on. Add another sticker to my collection. Hopefully, it's been some time out there. What do you say it is? That's end of September, September 21st, something like that. So see you look. And then in between, probably another one or two trailways is for fun. But those are the two main bets for.
Think you're gonna crush it. Shoots the altitude where I think well,
I think you are too.
let's see.
Pumped to see what we can do together.
Let's go running now.
Let's do it. I mean, that run way too much during a track photo too earlier today.
Yeah, fake track session I'd actually do.
Oh, cool. Looks good on camera. That's all I had. But cool. I think we call it there. Thanks for doing that, Ben. It's a lot of fun chatting about Skull Pepper York, talking about other new ways, and talk more about Alexei. Appreciate it. Hopefully having you back sometime soon. Thanks, guys. Peace. Thanks, everyone.